Welcome to the Freedom Founder Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Duggar. Now, many of you growing up did not receive a personal finance education. I am one of those individuals. It's not something that is commonly taught in our households, in our schools, in our religious environments, and the community in general. Now, our guest today had that change or advantage of having grown up in a household with bankers that were his parents. So, just part of their conversation daily tour to educate and to teach and to provide that support that somebody generally is not receiving. Now, Michael has been able to take that information and is working to provide a true financial education to the community, to individuals, and beyond. So, thank you for joining us today, Michael. I'm going to share just briefly a little bit what I know about you, and then I'll let you get into a little bit on that side as well. So, as I
Sure.
mentioned, grew up living in an environment with parents who are able to provide since a young age an education at the dinner table. That conversation that may not normally occur for most families. Now you train families and business owners from things from the tax system, investments, leverage, loans, tax credits, insurance, and a whole lot more. I know
hmm
you help clients identify opportunities and fill gaps where they're financially to where they want to be because they won't get it anywhere else. So I
That's
appreciate you
right.
joining us.
That's right. Thanks for having me,
Excellent.
Zach. Good to be
Uh,
here.
Absolutely. Now I wanted to ask you first thing because I think when we spoke before, I don't remember if I recall what location uh, you were living in or residing in at this time. So
Right,
where are you at now?
right now I'm in Barranquilla in Colombia in South America, and you can
There
tell
we
I've been
go.
practicing my Spanish because my rolling R's is pretty good.
Excellent improvement on that. Good work.
Yeah.
Now, I guess I asked that question because there's an advantage of being an entrepreneur in a world where you can provide support and service virtually. It
hmm
allows you to be in a location offsite, even internationally. So
Yeah.
wonderful, an excellent opportunity to just work on learning a language as well as continuing to provide service and support to others.
Thanks, man.
So,
Yeah, I've always
yeah,
wanted to learn another language, so here we go.
awesome. Well, immersion is the way to go. Well, let me
Yeah.
start by asking in regards to your early experiences in entrepreneurship, how did you
Mm.
get started and what was the what were you doing at a young age? Where did you find some like barriers in the road and kind of talk about the early
Mhm.
years first?
Oh man, the early years of my entrepreneurship journey were like the worst, horrible, horrid, because like you said, my parents were bank managers, right? So my parents, their philosophy was, get a job, work a job, keep the job, stay in the job, get promoted, get a raise, get all that
Yep.
stuff. Because that's what they did, right? They were born just after the Second World War. So they're from that boomers generation where like security, stability, was everything, right? And they were both bank
Right.
managers. My dad was his first job was replacing the ink wells. He was like the inkwell boy,
Okay.
where they had to
All right.
dip the pens in the ink, and that was in the early 1970s, I think. And he just
Okay.
worked his way up from like the mailroom, so to speak, and
Yep.
ended off his career in the 90s as a branch manager. So any kind of
Yep.
entrepreneurship or risk was seen as bad, borderline evil, like still is for my father. He hates risk,
Sure.
right? In the
Yeah.
banks, they don't like risk. So he saw client after client come into the bank needing a loan, foreclosing on their house, giving up their house, putting a mortgage on their house for a bank loan, and then their business going bust, and equipment
Yeah.
loans. And he just saw all this risk all the time. So there was
Right.
no model for me for entrepreneurship in my family. So my first few years, I just floundered.
Yeah.
I just,
Yeah.
I just had no clue what I was doing, man. So it's really
Right.
like Elon Musk says, it's like chewing glass, because you have no
Yeah.
idea what you're doing. Even if you have a background or people to model from, it's difficult. And that's
Yeah.
that's taken it lightly.
Yeah, yeah. I think an education in business doesn't necessarily even prepare you to be in business until you actually are in business, doing
That's
the
right.
work and the day to day
Yeah,
and learning as you go.
yeah, actions are everything, right? Like when you're in a business, actions produce results and everything's dependent upon you. So My first few
Yeah.
years, like I wasted all my savings. I had investments of all kinds. I went
Yep.
through those within 3 years and realized in the first year after making like this many sales calls, like, oh, I'm afraid of selling. I'm afraid of sales.
Okay.
My
Yeah.
brother, I remember being like 8 years old, and this memory for some reason sticks where my brother said that salespeople were evil because they
Yeah.
convince people to do things they don't want to do. The whole vacuum cleaner sleazy guy.
Sure.
And it was like, oh,
Yeah.
I was 8 years old. I just took that on. And then my first few years in business, it was like, well, I need to freaking sell. And selling isn't bad. Selling is how
Right.
you help people get what they want. So I had to take sales
Yep.
courses and learn in order to help
Yeah.
people and
Yeah.
survive.
And you also did you work with a multi-level marketing? Am I correct on
Oh
that?
yeah.
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
gained
Couple,
some
couple, couple
experience
different ones. Yeah.
through
Yeah.
through
When you're
sales
starting out,
and
you're
hmm
really vulnerable. You're going for the dream and you're
hmm
vulnerable and people want to pitch you things and you just see the dream and you're like, oh yeah, we can
yeah.
do this. And then you realize you don't know what the heck you're doing. You don't know the
Yeah.
product.
Right.
Can they service your area? What if they
Yeah.
can't? Stuff like that.
Yeah. Did you find that you gained some value in any of their approaches to selling that you were able to then develop some skills through that?
For sure, yeah, they all had a model. They all have a
Yeah.
model, whether it's presentation, meeting, whether it's two meetings or one meeting, or a pitch
Yep.
or a video or a email or whatever. They all have a process and a system, and that's good. They all have distribution, and that's good. You have to earn it. That's good. But
Yep.
there's a lot of ones that go bust, and there's a lot of ones that don't work out. There's
hmm
a lot of ones that have no business being in
Yeah.
business.
Sure.
And then
Yeah.
and then what I learned as well is not all the models are equal. So there's one company out there where every sale you make, you get $5. That's your
Okay.
commission, but you
Yep.
get it for like 5 years. But that
Oh,
still
okay.
doesn't
hmm
work out to more than, like $600, not even, right? Like $300.
Sure.
So it's like,
Yeah.
wait a sec, you realize, is that worth my time? It's
Right.
not really, right? So then I went for
Yeah.
other ones where it's like, okay, I value my time at, let's say, $100 an hour. So then I need
Yeah.
to be able to make, in 4 hours, close a deal that'll pay me $400 or more minimum net, right? So you start
Yeah.
to do these maths and these things and look at all these, metrics, right? Thankfully, but you don't
Right.
know anything in the beginning. So
Right. Right. Absolutely. And so sometimes stumbling through is that education in itself as well as the successful moments. Now, what was it that resulted in you ending up doing what you're doing now? And talk a little bit about what it is that you actually are doing now and what got you there and broke you into that space.
yeah. So I am a financial advisor now. So that means I
Yep.
advise clients on everything from investments, insurance, protection, estate, reducing debt, eliminating debt, taxes, understanding the
Yeah.
financial system, leverage, finding good deals on everything from insurance to mortgages and reducing expenses. And
Yeah.
that's a lot of what I do. That's a lot of my day-to-day talking to clients. But my favorite thing is education. So I have online courses, I have a mastermind group, and I have different, I have a big YouTube channel and that sort of thing. I'd love it to be
Yeah.
bigger, by the way, but it's big for
Sure.
me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And constantly just educating people, because I realize when you know differently, then you do differently, then you can have differently. So it's knowing, doing, having, like the actions we take are correlated to our knowledge always. So I spend tons of time educating clients on Zoom or meetings or calls or videos or emails, doing the math, showing them the
Yep.
language of money, which math is the language of money. So we do
Yeah.
spreadsheets. I'll send them, Zoom recording videos and help them analyze their investments, optimize their portfolios. And
Yep.
it's a ton of fun. My most joy comes out of the education. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just get,
Seeing.
and then why, you asked why I got to pass
Yeah.
on. I realized like I have to pass on what I learned, because people
Yep.
are not going to get it anywhere else. They're not going to get it from the banks or from school or their teachers or their parents even. So I got it from
Right.
my parents. I got to pass it on.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's a big vision. Then when you have that realization, if no one's doing this, then I've got to do this. And I like
Yeah.
what you said there. People know differently, they can do differently, and they can have differently. That
Yeah,
really
man.
speaks to that education mindset and helping people to see how they can make changes so they can have changes occur in their lives that they wouldn't otherwise experience.
Exactly. My dawning moment for entrepreneurship came when I realized that although my career was great and everything my parents
Yep.
gave me was great, my salary was great, I was limited in the
Hmm.
amount of people I could help, the amount of money
Yep.
I could make, and my schedule I had no control over. One of the defining moments was like when my sister was in labor giving birth to my nephew.
Yeah.
My boss wouldn't let me go to the hospital.
Right.
It made me finish my shift and that sort of thing. And I was
Yeah.
like, dude, like, when is this moment ever going to
Hmm.
happen? Like, are you nuts?
Right.
So just having no
Right.
control over your schedule or your life just didn't feel right. My
Yeah.
life didn't feel right.
Yeah. Yep. So that allowing yourself that freedom through entrepreneurship to continue to help serve others and to expand your vision into doing other things as well, but also to have that flexibility with location as well as time and
Mm.
financial growth as well, because it sounds like you had that limitation to an extent within your field that you were working in.
Yeah, we all do. Yeah, with our companies, they got
Yeah.
budgets and salary ranges and metrics, and
Yep.
we got to. And when you got a job, you got to stay within those. You can't go outside them. Otherwise, it's detrimental to the business.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, I would like to ask for you to educate us a little bit today because there is a lot of talk about recession and
Yeah.
what that means for us. And also, in consideration of that, what people should or could be doing differently when it comes to their investment strategy or financially in general so that they continue to consider how to better set themselves up into the future. So, I know this is a topic that you talk about and that you have insight on. And I'd just be interested in hearing that for our listeners' benefit as well as my own.
For sure. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
And I wanted to just improve my lighting here. Thank you. You
Oh, yeah,
know,
no problem.
there's, there's definitely a recession coming. We're actually overdue for one. The signs are very clear. The signs are
Hmm.
very evident. I've been doing webinars the last few weeks, and the next few weeks I'll be doing webinars as well, just
Yeah.
educating my clients and friends and people that are interested because we are massively overdue for a recession. If there was a global pandemic where the whole world
Yeah.
shut down and commerce and trade and logistics and global supply chains are still being disrupted, then that means that naturally there will be a recession.
Right.
And we haven't had one. The 2-month blip in COVID doesn't count. 2 months is not a recession. That's just
Right.
it's like a fart. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
In the
Yep.
economy, the stock market literally went like that, just like for a
Yep.
month.
Right.
So we're massively overdue. And Ray Dalio, who's a billionaire and the founder of the world's largest hedge fund and best performing hedge fund, Bridgewater and Associates,
Uh-huh.
he says, like, recessions happen when spending goes down. Well, with the increase in interest rates and the
Hmm.
massive pressure on people with their mortgages and their car loans and their credit cards and all those bills and interest rates going up, people are penny pinching. They're crimping.
Yeah.
There's a guy,
Yep.
a good friend of mine, who has no life insurance right now, and he has a daughter, and he's got a wife, and I'm like, dude, you need like life insurance like ASAP. You just don't know what's going to happen. Like this other guy I
Yep.
know got tongue cancer, and he survived, thank goodness, but like he just barely survived. So it's
Right.
like people are spending less, even in places where they shouldn't be, like something on life insurance if you have a family, but
Right.
they're spending less, and that's going to cause the economy to decline. And that's going to bring us into a recession. And so the government's
Yep.
increased all these interest rates, which is causing people to spend less and invest less, which will naturally create a recession. Three
Yep.
banks, like you messaged me a couple weeks ago about doing this podcast, and
Right.
three banks in that time, just in the last like 10 days, have like collapsed. Three banks have collapsed. And
Right.
all the banks are
Yep.
super interconnected. So it's natural, it's normal. We're like, it's going to be in the next like 6 months. And we
Yeah.
actually, Zach, might already be in this recession right now. They just haven't announced it. They'll announce it
Yeah.
when they want you to know. So,
Sure. Yeah. Yep. And for anyone that's listening later, we're recording this March 21st. So you kind of get that time frame around where we're talking about these three banks that Michael has mentioned as well. So what is something that individuals can be doing during this time when they start to hear recession and maybe they're not as educated in the area of finance, personal finance, but it brings fear in a person's mind when they start to hear banks closing,
mhm,
recession, interest rates
yeah.
increasing. what can people do now to best kind of help themselves kind of look at the future for their own personal finances and their family?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's a number of things that people can do, and I'm talking
Yeah.
about this in my webinars. You know, one of
Okay.
the most basic, simple things is reduce expenses, right?
Yeah.
Reduce spending, reduce unnecessary expenses, reduce debt, eliminate debt, seek to eliminate debt because
Yeah.
interest rates are probably going to go up one more time this year, maybe
Okay.
even more. And that means higher interest payments, of course.
Yeah.
Another thing is shift your portfolio immediately to something more conservative. It depends on your education level and your financial advisor and your relationship with that
Sure.
person, but you're either going to
Yeah.
do one or two things. You're going to move all your investments into cash or something conservative like bonds or,
Hmm.
precious metals, right? Which may go up if there's a recession.
Uh-huh.
Or you're going to stay where you are, dollar cost average your strategy into the stock markets because your investment horizon is just so long term that you're going to dollar cost average and it's going to net, in the end.
Yeah.
It really
Sure.
depends on how much you have invested. If you have,
Yep.
let's say, $3 million invested in the markets right now, and there's a recession and they announce it and everything goes down 50%, you're probably not going to be thrilled if you see your
Hmm.
investment value go down to 1.5 million,
Right.
right?
Yep.
Because then you're going to have to wait it out and you're going to have to wait another 3, 4, 5, 8 years in order just for it to come back or go higher from the 3 million
Right.
mark, right?
Yep.
But if you're only dealing with 40K, you might be okay with your long-term strategy if it goes down 50K when the recession hits and then go up from there.
Sure.
But personally, I'm moving my investments to cash. I'm moving my investments to more secure options. And I'm doing other things too because 3 banks have collapsed. There's probably going to be another 2, 3, maybe 4 that will go when this recession does get announced. I'm personally moving
Yep.
all my money into places where I have absolute certainty and absolute control, where
Yep.
there's no risk at all whatsoever. So that looks like life insurance policies, that looks like pure money market accounts, that looks
Hmm.
like cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, where I'm the custodian and I'm in full control in my own bank, right? In my own
Yep.
hard wallets, where I'm the bank.
Yep. Yep.
And also, some precious metals. Those are basically
Okay.
like that's it. And I'm putting together a course on how to become financially indestructible because, there's
Yeah.
like over 300 banks in the US and we don't know which domino is going to fall when. So
Sure.
I
Right.
recommend,
Right.
I recommend insurance is a super solid investment because it's separate from banks.
Yep.
Obviously cash, cryptocurrency where you're in control and you're the custodian. Nobody else is the custodian,
Hmm.
and precious metals.
Okay. Okay. Well, that is only a summary of the information that I'm certain that you share on the webinars that you've been describing. So I'd love to have information in regards to how our guests can reach out to you and to also connect and perhaps even join some of these webinars and educational opportunities. What's the best way for someone to connect with you?
Sure. The best way to connect is simply, reach out to me on whatever platform is best for you. I'm on every
Okay.
platform. If you're on my website at michaelsantonato.com, you can just connect with us through the website there. If
Yep.
you're on Facebook, that's your favorite. You can message me there. Those are kind of my favorites. I've got all these online courses on how to educate yourself at the website called truefinancialeducation.com. And if you're already a subscriber on my email list or YouTube channel, then you're going to get notified about the webinars as well.
Okay. All right. So reach out on social platforms, reach out on the website, michaelsantonato.com or truefinancialeducation.com. And we'll make sure to drop these in the show notes so that anybody who wants to can reach out to you because that education is a lot more than we can share in a 20-minute episode on this podcast. So
Yeah.
I love what you're doing because people need to understand finances, at least to a certain extent, to be able to have an ability to make a plan for their own future, for themselves, for their family, for their generations to come. And if they don't get it instructed, they can also lead to their own destruction of their finances. I love that you're creating a course for indestructible finances as well. I think that is awesome. Something that we
Me
all
too.
need. Yes.
Me too, man. Thank you.
Yes, definitely. Absolutely. Well, I'd love this episode. I appreciate taking some time with you and to just chat a little bit about your background, your experience, and where you're at today. And the fact that you are in another country and able to share your wisdom and knowledge and also get immersed in a different culture, learning a language, love that as well. So
Yeah, man.
thank you.
It's cool.
Thank you again for your time today. And I wish you well on your continued journey. And those that are looking for education in the area of finance, please do reach out to Michael. He's a man with a lot of education, a lot of knowledge. He wants to share it. So
Thank you, Zach.
absolutely. Take care.